Hello and thanks for joining us for a late night newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story tonight, the two Koreas are still locked in high-level talks at this hour as they try to defuse tensions on the Korean peninsula. News of today's meeting at the truce village of Panmumjom came as a big surprise to many because tensions had spiked to levels not seen in a few years following an exchange of artillery between the south and the north. For the latest details on how the two sides agreed to hold these talks, we connect to our presidential office correspondent Choi You-sun. So You-sun, many watchers here in the south were expecting another provocation by North Korea as time was ticking towards Pyongyang's deadline for Seoul to stop propaganda broadcasts.
Well, right, Mark. The announcement today by the head of South Korea's National Security Council Secretariat, Kim Kyu-hyun, certainly came as a big surprise for many. Kim said the two sides agreed to the meeting after North Korea proposed it Friday afternoon. North Korea initially proposed a one-on-one meeting between South Korea's top security advisor Kim Kwan-jin and its ruling party secretary Kim Yang-gun, but Seoul requested the North's top military official Hwang Byung-seo to come to the meeting. Pyongyang then suggested a 2+2 meeting that would also include the South Korean unification minister, which Seoul later accepted. Hwang Byung-seo is known to be North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's top military aide and led a delegation to South Korea last October for the closing ceremony of the Asian Games held in South Korea's western port city of Incheon. He and Kim Kwan-jin had met at the time, and some experts say agreeing to send Hwang to the meeting reflects North Korea's will to renew dialogue with the South. Mark?
And You-sun, while South Korea's presidential office of Cheongwadae awaits the outcome of these talks, the country's ruling and opposition parties welcome news of today's inter-Korean meeting. Tell us more.
Well, like you said, Mark, the South Korea's presidential office hasn't said anything about today's meeting since the NSC Secretariat had made the announcement earlier in the day. And we're getting reports that South Korea's top security advisor, Kim Kwan-jin, will brief the press about the outcome of the meeting later here at the presidential office. The country's ruling and opposition parties, political parties in the meantime, have reacted positively to the news of today's meeting. Ruling Saenuri Party leader Kim Moo-sung said he expects the meeting will help ease tensions in the region, and adding that he hopes the two Koreas will be able to make compromise. The leader of the main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, Moon Jae-in, who had urged Seoul to propose high-level talks with Pyongyang the day before, also welcomed the news. Earlier, the two-party leaders adopted a joint statement calling on the North to stop all acts of provocation that aggravate tensions in the region. They also prompted the two Koreas to seek a peaceful way to ease ongoing tensions through dialogue. Well, that's all I have for now. This was Choi You-sun reporting from South Korea's presidential office.
Let's now connect to our Hwang Sang-hee at the Unification Ministry in Seoul. Sang-hee, we heard reports about an hour ago saying the talks had ended, but as we heard, discussions are still ongoing.
That's right, Mark. The talks began a little over 6 p.m. Korea time, which is about 4 hours ago, and we can confirm that it's still ongoing at the border village of Panmumjom as we speak. South Korea's National Security Advisor Kim Kwan-jin and Unification Minister Hong Yong-pyo are meeting with the North Korean military's top political officer Hwang Byung-seo and Kim Yang-gun, who handles inter-Korean affairs. This high-level meeting comes amid heightened tensions on the peninsula following North Korea's landmine attack at the demilitarized zone, which seriously wounded 2 South Korean soldiers earlier this month. Now, this led to Thursday's exchange of artillery fire across the border, which further raised tensions in the region. Now, attention is focused on whether today's talks could provide some much-needed momentum to inter-Korean relations, which have soured so badly, especially over the past few days. North Korea's official Korean Central News Agency also swiftly reported about the meeting. Well, for now, we have no details about what is being discussed, but I will have more updates for you in our later newscast. This has been Hwang Sang-hee reporting live from the Unification Ministry in Seoul.
So, high-level talks are still being held, but the military standoff continues at the inter-Korean border. A deadline set by North Korea passed roughly 5 hours ago, with no provocations or attacks, as of yet at least. Pyongyang had threatened to attack loudspeakers on the South Korean side that broadcast anti-regime propaganda. For more details, we connect to Kim Hyun-bin at the Ministry of National Defense in Seoul. Hyun-bin, what's the latest?
Well, Mark, as you can imagine, tensions at the border remains high. And as you mentioned, we are now 5 hours in after the 48-hour deadline imposed by North Korea. And Pyongyang said it wanted the South to tear down the loudspeakers by that time, something Seoul hasn't done. Defense Ministry officials told reporters here that they are waiting to see the results of those high-level talks at Panmumjom, as the South Korean representatives could agree to halt the propaganda broadcast to cool tensions. In the short time since the deadline passed, there have been no signs of provocations, but the South Korean military is on its highest state of alert to deal with the contingencies. North Korea says it has completed preparations for military action, and troops on the front line are said to be awaiting orders. The regime deployed some heavy-duty artillery inside the demilitarized zone on Saturday, and what appears to be a sign it is serious about possibly striking out against the loudspeakers. Now, most experts say an all-out conflict is unlikely, but a North Korean provocation of some sort is certainly not out of the question in the coming hours. The South Korean military says its artillery, F-15s and Aegis destroyers are ready to strike any targets in the north if provoked. The United States has also reiterated on a number of occasions that it is steadfast in its defense of the South. We still don't know what will happen or not, but as a precautionary measure, over 15,000 residents who live on South Korea's 5 West Sea border islands and near the DMZ have been evacuated to safer areas. Now, this has been Kim Hyun-bin reporting live from the Ministry of National Defense in Seoul.
Now, as we just heard there, the militaries of South and North Korea remain on their highest state of alert, despite the high-level talks at Panmunjom and the passing of the North's deadline. For more on what has been a tension-filled day so far, Shin Se-min reports.
The two Koreas were busy making moves on Saturday in the lead-up to North Korea's 48-hour deadline that passed as of 5 p.m. South Korea time. South Korea and the United States flew 8 fighter jets over the skies of South Korea in a show of force towards the north. The South Korean military says 4 U.S. F-16s and 4 South Korean F-15K fighter jets worked together for the 1-hour-long combat drill in a clear demonstration of the two allies' combined air force power. An official said the drill, which simulated bombings of enemy targets, showed the allies' determination that any kind of provocation will not be tolerated. Earlier Saturday, South Korea's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Choi You-sun, and his U.S. counterpart, General Martin Dempsey, agreed over the phone that they would strongly respond to any attacks from the north. Dempsey said the U.S. military was ready to provide any support in case of an emergency situation on the Korean peninsula. The North Korean military was seen preparing on Saturday to strike South Korean loudspeakers broadcasting anti-Pyongyang messages. South Korean military sources say North Korea deployed towed artillery to the DMZ for an apparent attack on the loudspeakers. Other artillery movements were spotted along the border as well. Tensions hit boiling point on Thursday when South Korea fired artillery rounds into North Korea after rockets were fired from the northern side in an apparent attempt to attack the loudspeakers. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The South Korean government has vowed to take all necessary measures to ease jitters on local financial markets stemming from the recent uptick in inter-Korean tensions. The Finance Ministry held an emergency meeting on Saturday, chaired by Finance Minister Choi You-sun. The ministry says it will provide the latest and most accurate information regarding developments on the Korean peninsula to credit ratings agencies and foreign investors. Officials added that they've discussed preemptive measures and even possible contingency plans that could be put in place if the security situation were to worsen. The ministry did not elaborate on the specifics of the plans discussed. Now, in other news, it was a worrying end to the week on Wall Street, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average tumbling 531 points on Friday. For the week, the Dow is down more than 1,000 points, or 5.8%, and that is the biggest weekly loss in 4 years. The Dow finished the week at 16,460. Investors have been spooked by fears of a global economic slowdown, particularly centred around China and the US Federal Reserve's expected rate hike. The losses weren't only limited to the Dow either. The S&P 500 fell about 64 points, or 3.2% on Friday. The tech-heavy Nasdaq tumbled around 170 points, or 3.5%. Oil prices also fell below $40 a barrel for the first time since 2009. Back here in Korea, and more troubling job figures have been released that show the number of people in Korea classified as long-term unemployed hit an almost 10-year high last month. Statistics Korea says the number rose 52% on year in July, reaching 121,000, a high not seen since October 2005. It's also the highest July figure since the year 2000, when Korea was still recovering from the 1997 Asian financial crisis. The long-term unemployed are defined as job seekers who have not found work for 6 months or more. They currently make up 12% of unemployed people here in Korea. The agency also says the number of working age people who have given up even looking for a job increased more than 7% in July to almost 490,000. There are rising concerns both figures could rise even further as economic conditions remain fairly grim. Samsung Electronics is pulling out all the stops to entice Apple customers away from their iPhones. The Korean firm says it's giving iPhone users the chance to test drive one of its new smartphones, the Galaxy S6 Edge, the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, or Galaxy Note 5 for 30 days for just $1. Samsung is billing the promotion as the ultimate test drive. Those wanting to take Samsung up on their offer have to sign up for the promotion via Samsung's website through an iPhone. If the customer likes the Samsung phone, they can buy it. If not, they can simply return it in a prepaid package. The move comes as Samsung looks to shore up its position as the world's largest smartphone maker and wrestle users away from Apple's new larger screen iPhones. Now, before we go, taking a brief look at the weather, and it's a relatively cooler night than we've seen in the past few weeks, with the overnight low dipping to a comfortable 19 degrees Celsius in Seoul. Sunday is going to be pleasant and sunny across most of the country, with afternoon highs ranging from the high 20s to the low 30s, and we'll see similar conditions on Monday as well. With that, let's take a look at the weather around the world. Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.com/news, and we'll be back live at midnight Korea time. Until then, goodbye.